So cold, hot, right? Yeah, so very warm welcome to everybody and good to have you join nice and early. We're expecting more to join us. But as we do so, just a little bit about Learning and Development Africa. Next slide, please. We have Kevin joining us from Chicago in the US. It's already snowing. That's amazing. That's amazing. The previous slide, please. So that those who are joining us from the first time, we can share something about L&D Africa. So welcome to this L&D Africa webinar. My name, as I said earlier, for those of you who joined after we had started, is Caroline Nyamoya Mwazi, and I'm your host today. And in today's webinar, we're with Kevin Yates, who's joining us from Chicago, and he's the L&D detective, and he'll be sharing with us on L&D measurement mysteries. But before that, a little bit about Learning and Development Africa. Back to the previous slide, Stanley. I'll tell you when to move. Thank you. So L&D Africa is an organization that started, a network actually, that started during COVID in 2020. And it's really a dynamic network of professionals who are committed to advancing personal and organizational development across Africa. So whether you're an instructional designer, a facilitator, or somebody like Kevin who's involved in measuring the impact of training, this is the network for you. And this network brings together practitioners and enthusiasts in the learning and development industry to engage, share ideas, and create innovative homegrown solutions that address Africa's unique challenges while aligning with global best practices. So by a show of hands, who's joining us for the first time? Give us a virtual hand raise so that we can see and recognize you. I know it sounds a bit like church, but still, it's good to see who our first-time visitors are. So Enoch, shout out to you. Even Asda, good to see you as well. Thank you for joining. Anyone else joining us for the first time today? All right, so we've got a few more coming up. Lina, I see you as well. Good to see you. And Emmanuel as well. Thank you. Great to see you as well. Thank you for joining. Stanley, I see your thumbs up in chat. So yes, you can put it in chat as well. Good to see you, Catherine. And I think that's just about it. I don't think I've missed anyone else. Okay, so great. So still as part of our beginning, I can see we are around 34 already. So Stanley, if you could set up 8 breakout rooms, I think that will be enough. Let's get into breakout rooms and share. And this is what you'll share. So we'll do just a mini networking where you talk about your name and your organization, and then also in one word, describe what 2024 has been for you and why, right? So you've got 5 minutes to have that very brief discussion. So Stanley, if you could set up the breakout rooms and send everybody there just randomly into the breakout rooms, 5 minutes to share your name, your organization, and your role in the organization, and then one word to describe 2024 and why. Thank you. Enjoy your discussions, and we'll bring you back after 5 minutes. Thank you. Or actually, maybe I can do it from here. Let's, oh yeah, yeah. So they're already set up. I'll be joining one room as well. So let's go into our rooms and just network. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody had the opportunity to share. Are we all back in the room?
The time was too short. Just when we were enjoying it, we were called back.
It's you. I agree.
For me,
Then,
I never had problem with the time. The timing was not bad. It was okay.
Mhm. My brother from Liberia, I can see you are from Banga.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
in Nimba, Ganta City.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Dinah is beginning to talk like a Liberian now.
Yeah, I used to live in Liberia.
You.
Yeah.
I almost thought
Awesome.
I almost thought you from Liberia because I hear in
It's
the accent.
you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What you said?
Well,
Yeah,
everybody,
she's a
thank
global.
you. Thank you so much for joining. And I take that feedback loud and clear. I think we might have, like, once we are done with the series of webinars, I think we'll start having some dedicated times where we just speed network and just get to know one another as the L&D Africa family. But welcome back, and great to hear the banter, which would never happen if we went straight into the session. So it's something I was experimenting, and I can announce now that this will stay and become, part of what we do from time to
It
time.
has to stay.
Yeah, it's here to stay. Exactly.
And for a longer time.
Yes. Feedback taken, Diana, loud and clear. So right now it gives me then great pleasure. One, before I even introduce Kevin, is just to say, regardless of the year that you've had, we are here. So in my group, I have the privilege of the mic, so I'll share. So we were 5, and actually we had a +1, right? So the experience that we had was the year had been cyclical, interesting, bumpy, amazing, and roller coaster. There were ups and there were downs, and also transformative. And really, doesn't matter what kind of year we had. It was a variation of different things. I know. I mean, it's 365 days almost. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We are here, and it's a time, of course, at the end of the year to think about, to look back and look at how things have been, but also to think about 2025 and, also reflect on that. So more on that as we wind up. We still have one more webinar to go anyway, but today we've got Kevin Yates, who's the L&D detective, and he is a globally celebrated expert in measuring training and learning contribution to workplace performance. He's known as the L&D detective, as I mentioned earlier, and he investigates learning's effectiveness using facts, clues, evidence, and data. With a career spanning over 25 years, Kevin has mastered roles in L&D, including facilitation, instructional design, learning operations, leadership development, and measurement. He has worked with industry giants such as Grant Thornton, Kantar Media, McDonald's, and Meta, which was the original Facebook, where he created actionable measurement practices that align training programs and learning solutions with business performance needs. Kevin's global presence includes keynote presentations, workshops, and conferences in Africa. Proud to say that he's been to Kenya, Europe, and the United States, where his engaging approach combines storytelling, practical insights, and immersive audience participation. As a sought-after speaker, Kevin equips audiences with actionable practices for solving measurement mysteries in learning and development. He is acclaimed for his ability to demystify complex concepts, delivering transformative sessions that empower leaders and teams with truth-based practices for measuring training and learning's contribution to human and business performance. Kevin's thought leadership and expertise resonate deeply with global audiences, setting them up for success with achievable and effective methods. Beyond his professional achievements, Kevin is the founder and the president of Meals in the Meantime, a nonprofit dedicated to addressing food insecurity with pop-up food pantries. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Kevin a huge African virtual hand clap as he comes to share about L&D measurement mysteries. Over to you, Kevin.
Caroline, and thank you for that introduction. That was quite an introduction. I didn't know if it was a eulogy or something sharing who I am. So that was really cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. You made me sound really important. And so I'll see if I can hold up to that. Hey, everybody. I am so happy to be here. I am so excited to be here. As Caroline mentioned, I have been to Nairobi. I've been, there in Kenya. That was about 4 years ago, and I had an amazing time. I was in Nairobi speaking at a conference, and I have been trying since then to get back to motherland Africa. It was absolutely one of the most amazing experiences that I've had, just to be able to be in the land of my ancestors and to meet so many wonderful, incredibly kind people. So be on the lookout. I hope to get back to the motherland Africa very soon. I'm really happy that you're joining me today. I am known in the industry as the L&D detective, and I'm going to show you today how I solve measurement mysteries. Actually, you're going to assist me in solving a measurement mystery. And so one of the things that you're going to need to assist me is your mobile device. So if you have your mobile device handy, please make sure that it's near you and ready, because part of what we're going to do today when we solve a measurement mystery will require you to have your mobile device. If you don't have your mobile device, I do have a workaround, so don't worry, you'll be absolutely fine. So, are you guys ready to solve a measurement mystery? Are you guys ready to see how I measure the impact of training and learning? If you're ready, give me a thumbs up. Let me see some thumbs up there. If you're ready, let me see. All right, I see some thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. All right, here we go. First thing I want to do, let me make sure I'm ready here. First thing I want to do is to just share a little bit about who I am and what I have done. And Caroline talked about this a little bit earlier, so I won't spend a whole lot of time here. But I am fortunate to have worked in some incredible industries with some really incredible businesses. And you can see who some of those businesses are over there to the left. And that includes places like McDonald's and Meta, which used to be Facebook. And then over to the right, you can see some of the roles in which I've served. And so I have done a lot, as you can see, in training, learning, and talent development, and that includes roles for program management, instructional design, onboarding, and most recently, I have been narrowly focused on measurement. So in the L&D world, in the training world, in the talent development world, I have been narrowly focused on measuring the impact of training and learning. And that's why they call me the L&D detective, because I investigate the impact of training and learning with facts, clues, evidence, and data. So today we're going to be talking about how I measure impact, and you're going to assist me in solving a measurement mystery. So before we do that, I have a question for you. And this is where I'm going to need your help, Caroline. And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to ask you to share how you define impact in the chat. So use the chat to define how you or rather to share how you define impact for training and learning. So Caroline, I'm going to be excited to hear what people have to say about how they define impact for training and learning. Caroline, are any of the responses coming through?
No, we're still waiting for responses to come through.
All right. We'll take our time. I'm excited to hear.
So we have our first one. Yeah, okay. We have our first one from Lillian, who says impact is equals to performance results. Nonya says, yes. Nonya says participants able to use the knowledge learned. Enoch says, I define impact for training and learning through application and implementation. Daniel, who is ahead of the curve a little bit because he is also an ROI expert, he says the delta change in a business goal.
Okay.
And then Vera says when a change occurs in attitude, and others coming through, Emmanuel, change in behavior, Impact
good.
is the product or result from learning and development. Adaora says improvement/positive shift towards the goals that we have set. Changes in attitude, where learning is transferred to job performance, leads to improved results and desired changes. Jack, impact is how it ends to prove the problem identified.
Very good. Maybe a couple more, Caroline. Maybe just two more.
There are quite a number coming through, so I'll just read a couple. Impact is personal improvement, bottom line improvement, expected benefits and outcomes, improving the problem identified, and the last one, contribution to strategy, translating from improved performance and behavior change. So we are seeing influencing results also and innovation. Thank you.
Yeah. A couple of people who have a definition of impact that is very close to the way that I define impact. And guys, it's important to note that the way in which I define impact drives everything that I do as the L&D detective when I am investigating impact. So I'm going to share with you how I define impact. So here's how I define impact. I define impact as training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. I want to say that again. I define impact as training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. And so when I am doing the work as the L&D detective, the essence of what I am measuring is how training and learning contributed to human and business performance, or what I like to call workplace performance. So I want you to keep this definition in mind, because as we work together to solve a measurement mystery today, I want you to be thinking about this definition, because we're going to be looking at the facts, the clues, the evidence, and the data that shows training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. I hope you're ready, because I am. So before I go any further, I think I need to define what I mean by contribution. So let's take a look at that, because there are a couple of things that we need to be taking into consideration. Now remember, the way in which I define impact is training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. What that means then is that training and development is not the only thing that will contribute to human performance. That's very important to note here, because quite often in the businesses in which we work, business partners and stakeholders, they believe that training people or L&D people have a magic wand, and that we can do anything, and that we can fix anything by ourselves or on our own. And that is just not true. We have multiple contributors to human performance. And what you see here are some examples of some of the things that have the potential and the power to contribute to human performance. You'll note that training and development is just one of the things. It's not the only thing. And again, this is not an all-inclusive list. These are just a few examples. So we know that workplace culture can impact human performance. Manager coaching and support, that can impact human performance. Natural ability, the things that we were born with in terms of what we're good at, that contributes to human performance. Compensation, our paycheck, that contributes to human performance. Tools and technologies that help us do our job, that contributes to human performance. Rewards and recognition. When we are identified as being excellent and doing the good work, that contributes to human performance. And then, again, the tools and technologies that we have available to us to help us in our jobs and in our roles. So again, this is just an example of the different types of things that have the potential and the power to contribute to human performance. So let's take a look at what has the potential and the power to contribute to business performance. So in an organization, there are multiple teams, there are multiple groups that contribute to business performance. What you see here is just an example of some of the teams that are in the business that have the potential and power to contribute to business performance. L&D is just one of those teams. It's not the only team. And again, it's important to identify this, because when I investigate the impact of training and learning, when I measure the impact of training and learning, I am looking at all that there is that has potential and power to contribute to workplace performance. So let's take a look at this idea. In the performance ecosystem, there are contributors to human performance. In the performance ecosystem, there are contributors to business performance. And so all of these contributors are swirling around in the performance ecosystem. And so when we measure the impact of training, we are measuring training and learning's contribution to the performance ecosystem. And so what you see in the two circles represents L&D as a function and training and learning as an experience. And it is all part of the performance ecosystem. And so when I am investigating impact as the L&D detective, I am measuring training and learning's contribution to workplace performance, training and learning's contribution to the performance ecosystem. And when we think about the performance ecosystem, we can think about it this way. Human performance plus business performance equals workplace performance. It's a very simple formula, but it represents how I work when I am measuring training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. So again, the definition here is that human performance plus business performance equals workplace performance. And that is what I am measuring. I am measuring training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. The other thing that I'd like to share here is where I am focused. And I just talked about this a little bit. As the L&D detective, I am narrowly focused on identifying and evaluating how training and learning in the midst of the performance ecosystem is measurably contributing to human and business performance. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. And before I do that, excuse me, I want to identify what makes measurement successful. All right, so as we are making attempts to measure the impact of training and learning, and remember, I define impact as training and learning's contribution. When we are attempting to measure the impact of training and learning, there are four things that are important. First and foremost, we need to conduct a performance needs analysis. If we're going to measure the impact of training and learning on performance, we must complete a performance needs analysis. The second thing is we must define impact before we try to measure it. So often, my clients and my customers are asking me to measure impact after the training is already used, after the learning solution has already been utilized, after the e-learning has already been created. So what we need to do that is very different than that which we've done in the past, we have to define impact before we try to measure it. The third thing that will make measurement successful is selecting a metric or a measure that will give you the strongest, most credible, reliable signal for the impact of training and learning. We want to be able to select a metric or a measure that we can use as a signal for how training and learning is measurably contributing to workplace performance. And then the last thing that will make your measurement efforts successful is when you align and agree with business partners and stakeholders on what impact looks like when it shows up real time, day to day on the job. So these are the four things that will make measuring impact successful. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. We're going to do a case study today. And in the case study, you're going to see where we are doing these four things so that our measurement efforts will be successful. So I'm going to show you a little case study here. Pay close attention to what you see and what you hear, because it will help you as we work together to solve the measurement mystery today. So let's take a look at a video, and remember, pay attention to what you see, what you hear, because this is what we're going to use as the basis for solving our measurement mystery today.
Mobile for Earth is a global mobile phone company. They manufacture mobile phones and provide voice and data services. With 10 million customers worldwide, they have a reputation for innovative mobile technology, affordable voice and data plans, wide-reaching service areas, and award-winning customer service. Mobile 4 Earth is excited about the release of its new AI-powered mobile phone, the M4 E300. With advancements in artificial intelligence, the M4 E300 transforms the experience customers have with their phones. Pre-orders indicate customers' interest in purchasing the new phone. Prior to launching the new phone, Mobile 4 Earth wants to ensure customer service representatives meet performance expectations for supporting the new phone. They experienced significant drops in metrics that measure customer service with the release of their last new phone. They do not want the same to happen with release of the M4 E300. Carlos Rivera leads the products and innovation team and submitted a request for training customer service representatives as part of readiness for release of the new phone. He submitted his request via the L&D team's new performance needs analysis. Nepal Arun is a learning and performance consultant with the L&D team and is reviewing Carlos' request for training via the performance needs analysis form.
Right. Excuse me. So, Caroline, was that video clear and did the sound come through clearly?
Yes, it did.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to check. So here's what we know. There is a company that is producing mobile phones. They are launching a new phone. There are two people in the company. One person is Nepal. He is the L&D consultant. The other person is Carlos. He works in the business, and he had a training request. So as part of that training request, he submitted a form for his training request. The new form that he submitted is a performance needs analysis. And we talked earlier about needing to conduct a performance needs analysis so that we are best positioned to measure the impact of training and learning on performance. So again, Carlos submitted a form with his training needs analysis. Nepal, the L&D consultant, is reviewing that training request form, and part of that training request form is a performance needs analysis. Would you like to take a look at how Carlos completed that form? If you'd like to see that form, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see that form, give me a thumbs up. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, here is where you're going to need your mobile device. Take out your mobile device and pull up your camera and scan the QR code. When you scan the QR code, you're going to see the form that Carlos submitted for his training request. Take out your phone, open your camera, and scan that QR code. Now, if you don't have your phone, the website where you can go to take a look at that form is below. It's kevinmyates.com/PNA and the number 1. So again, you can do one or two things here to see the form that Carlos submitted. You can scan the QR code where you'll see the training request form and the performance needs analysis that's part of that form. Or you can go to kevinmyates.com on your laptop or your computer /PNA and the number 1. And Caroline, I just want to do a quick check here and make sure that you're able to see that form, Caroline. Are you able to see it?
I'm trying to get to it. Just give me a sec.
No worries. I want to make sure everybody can get to that form. Once again, you can open your camera on your mobile device, scan that QR code, or on your laptop or your computer, you can go to kevinmyates.com/PNA and the number 1. All right. How you doing, Carolyn? Are you able to pull that form up?
I'm actually trying to get the link so that we can share that in chat as well.
All right.
My QR code is acting up.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can share that link in the chat if people are not able to get to it. All right. And those of you who are joining today, if you could just use the chat message and let us know that you're able to see the form.
Okay, so I've got it. I'm sharing it in chat.
All right. Again, if you weren't able to use the QR code, or again, you can type in the web address
Yeah.
to get to the
Thanks.
website. And the website is kevinmyates.com/PNA1. So again, what you're looking at is the form that Carlos submitted in response to his training request. And so you're going to see the different questions that are there. There are 9 questions that are in that form that Carlos submitted for his training request. So there are 9 questions that are there. Caroline,
Would
I'd
you
like
like
to
me to
ask our
project
audience a
it?
question.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Were you trying to ask me a question, Caroline?
Yes, I was asking if you wanted me to project it, but
Oh, no. It's a lot of information there, so we don't want to project it.
Mhm. Okay, great.
All right. So hopefully everybody is looking at that form. And so I'm going to ask you in the chat. I'm going to ask you and put your response in the chat. There are 9 questions that are there. 9 questions. What do you notice about those 9 questions? Use the chat to answer the question. What do you notice about those 9 questions that are part of the performance needs analysis form that Carlos submitted? All right, use the chat and answer the question. What are you seeing about those 9 questions? All right, Caroline, are any responses coming through?
Just a second, let me see. Okay, so trying to get my Zoom screen up.
No worries. Remember, use the chat and let us know what you're seeing about those 9 questions.
Okay, so nothing yet.
Okay.
Yes, so focuses on performance. Some
Focuses
are
on
unclear.
performance.
Yes, some are unclear or vague. And then somebody says that they are impact questions the L&D need to know before approving funds for the training.
Yes. Yes. What else do you notice about those 9 questions, team?
It has questions to focus on both bunnies. On both, okay, I'm not sure that, but that is bunnies, Jack. You might want to clarify or edit, but basically it's about human performance. And yeah, so it has questions to focus on both work and human performance. Emmanuel says focus on performance, open-ended questions, business goals, trying to define expectations, focus on business and performance. And the last one, the questions focus on what the impact of the training would be.
That's all correct. You guys are doing a great job with assisting me in solving this measurement mystery, because again, remember, we're working together to solve this measurement mystery. So we know again that Carlos needed to submit a performance needs analysis in advance of us designing anything or creating anything. And this is going to help us create a learning solution that has measurable impact. So what he is doing, what Nepal is doing, is continuing to get the information he needs to complete that performance needs analysis. But he doesn't have all the information that he needs from Carlos. So he scheduled a meeting with Carlos to fill in the blanks where Carlos didn't answer those questions. So now we're going to take a look at a conversation between Carlos and Nepal. Remember, Nepal is the L&D consultant and Carlos is working in the business. And so now Nepal is following up to get the answers to the questions that were not answered in the form. So let's take a look at that conversation.
Hello, Carlos. Good to see you again. Thank you for submitting the performance needs analysis for your training request. We have a few clarifying questions and want to ensure we have all the information we need to make the best possible recommendation.
Good to see you again too, Nepal. I really like the new training request form you guys are using, but there were some questions I wasn't sure about. I didn't see any questions about training in the new form you guys are using. Are we going to talk about what kind of training we need?
Thanks for your feedback on our new performance needs analysis. It helps us ensure we make the best possible recommendation when we get requests for training. We won't talk about training today, but we will talk about business goals, performance requirements that help achieve those goals, and
Well, we already know what we need. We need a half-day training program with some role play to help our customer service representatives get ready for a new phone we're launching. And we want some tests to be part of the training too. I thought we were going to talk about my training request.
my goal for our discussion today is getting clear about business goals, performance requirements that help achieve those goals, and a few other questions about performance. We are taking a performance-first approach with training requests, and we want to ensure we are making the best possible recommendation when training and learning is the right solution. We also want to ensure we're planning in advance for how we'll measure success. The new performance needs analysis helps us do that.
Okay, I really want to talk about the training we need, but I get where you're headed, so what do you need to know?
I appreciate you being flexible. Let's start with business goals. I saw in the performance needs analysis where you indicated you want a half-day training program with tests. Talk to me about what prompted your training request.
We're launching a new mobile phone powered by artificial intelligence, and we want to ensure our customer service experience scores don't take a hit when customer service representatives get support calls. The last time we launched a new phone, our customer service experience metrics took a big hit because we weren't ready. We can't let that happen again. We're the industry leader in customer care, and we want to maintain our reputation.
You say the business goal is maintaining and sustaining our customer service metrics?
Yes, that's exactly it. That's the business goal.
And what about performance requirements that help achieve the business goal?
What do you mean?
Can you describe the skills, behaviors, and capability that's needed to maintain our customer service experience scores?
I'm not sure I can answer that question, but I can put you in touch with someone who can. Our HR rep, Theodore, can probably help. I'll send Theodore an email and copy you.
Sounds good. Let's talk about the collective effort to achieve the business goal. Training may be one of the things we do to support the business goal, but what other teams are supporting the business goal, or what other work is being done?
Good question. There are other teams doing work in preparation for the launch of our new phone. The technology team is implementing a new knowledge system for customer service reps. The benefits team is exploring incentives for customer service reps who meet or exceed performance expectations, and customer service managers are getting training on how to use the new phone. I can connect you with the leaders for these projects.
This is very helpful. I have just a few more questions that will help us make the best possible recommendation for your training request.
Okay, so what we know is that Carlos has a training request because the business is launching a new phone. He submitted his training request to Nepal. Nepal received the training request that included the performance needs analysis, but it didn't have all the information that Nepal needed. So he scheduled a follow-up video call with Carlos, and we just saw that conversation where Nepal is asking Carlos to fill in the gap with those questions where he did not answer them in the performance needs analysis form. You may have also noticed in that conversation that Carlos was focused on training and Nepal was focused on performance. So there are a lot of times when we work with people who request training or our business partners or stakeholders, and they're focused on training. What we want to focus on is where we can contribute to workplace performance using our training programs and our learning solutions. And so performance is where we focus. Performance is what I like to call the North Star. And that is what you just saw there in that video. So there were some questions that Carlos could not answer. And what he said to Nepal is that he would follow up with the answer to some of those questions by connecting him with Theodore. Theodore works in the HR department, and he can answer some of the questions that were in that performance needs analysis form that Carlos could not answer himself. So we're going to take a look at the email that Carlos sent to Theodore to help answer the questions that he could not answer. So get your phones ready again for your QR code, or you can go to the website and it's listed there, kevinmyates.com/V2email1. So again, pull up your phone, open your camera, use the QR code, and that will take you to the email that Carlos sent to Theodore to answer the questions that he could not answer. So again, use the QR code, or you can go to kevinmyates.com/V2email1, and that will take you to the email. That will take you to the email. So remember, guys, we're solving a measurement mystery and we're collecting all the facts, the clues, the evidence, and the data. Some of the evidence and the facts and the data are going to be found in the email that you're going to take a look at right now. All right. And Caroline, I just want to do a quick check-in with you. Are you able to see that email, Caroline?
Yes, I can. Yes, I
Good.
can.
Very good. So we're going to give people maybe a minute or two to read through that email. And then Caroline, I'm going to ask you to help me when people are letting us know what they saw in that email. So guys, take about a minute or two and read through that email. There is some information there that's going to help you solve this measurement mystery. So I'm excited to see what you get from that email. Hopefully everybody is reading through it now, taking a look at where Theodore is helping Carlos answer questions that he couldn't answer himself. And we're going to come back together after everyone has had a chance to read through that email and see what you discovered. All right. All right. So, Caroline, I'm going to need your help again. And we're going to ask you, those of you who are attending the webinar today, use the chat to let us know what you discovered in that email. Again, use the chat to indicate what you discovered in that email between Theodore, Carlos, and Nepal. Again, use the chat to let us know what you discovered in that email between Theodore, Carlos, and Nepal. And Caroline, are there any responses coming through in the chat with what people discovered in that email? Because there's some important information there.
No, but I'm sure that they're typing, so they'll be coming through in a few.
Very good, very good. And while people are typing what you discovered in that email, I want to let you know that this is the work of an L&D detective. This is how I solve measurement mysteries. I have to collect all the facts, all the clues, all the evidence. And sometimes the facts, the clues, and the evidence are in an email. So this is giving you an example of what that looks like. But there's some very important information in that email. And so that's why we want to know what you discovered. And please remember to put yourself on mute. Please remember to put yourself on mute. We're getting some background noise. All right. Caroline, what are you seeing in the chat?
All right. So a number of responses. Let me just expand my chat so that I can see everything. But in short, Carlos wasn't clear about what he wants the training to achieve. It helps L&D to get the impact needed. And then Theodore wanted 3 skills and corresponding performance expectations. 2 of the 3 are measurable. That's Daisy. Every skill has a specific performance expectation measurement criteria. Seko says job description, request of services representative. It's all about Carlos conducting a training needs analysis for the training request from Nepal. And I think there's an attempt to align the performance need to the business need. Thank you, Daniel. Winfred, specific required skills and the SMART associated expectations for each metric. And not all, please mute yourself. Not all performance issues can be cured by L&D. And Janet says the what was needed to get clear on what the organization needed in terms of training was guided by the performance metrics of the customer reps that could be measured. And then seems a competency framework of sorts is needed. That's a DAORA. And then we have Jack saying that problem solving and skills have great metrics, especially on the resolution and ties in the NPS. That's
one
Net
more,
Promoter
Caroline, maybe
Score.
one more.
And yes, actually that is the last one so
Okay.
far. But Vera, ensuring value for money and impact from training. Back to you, Kevin.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you so much for adding your comments, and thank you for looking at the email. Here's what I want you to take away from that email. We need, in order to create training and learning that has potential power to influence and contribute to human performance, is the performance expectations. It's very important that you note in that email, we have identified the performance expectations for the customer service reps. When we know what the performance expectations are, we can design and align our training to whatever the performance needs are for the business. And that is why it is critically important that we lead with performance, that we start with performance. And the important and exciting thing about the facts, the clues, the evidence, and data in that email is that Theodore identified the performance expectations for customer service reps. So we know what the performance expectations are. Now, there are still some questions in that performance needs analysis that Nepal does not have the answer to. So what Theodore did is set up a meeting with Emma. Emma owns the performance metrics. And so Nepal, the L&D consultant, needs to know what those performance metrics are, because those metrics then become the target for impact. So let's take a look at the conversation between Theodore, who is the HR representative, Nepal, who is the L&D consultant, and Emma, who owns the performance metrics. So let's take a look at that conversation.
Thank you guys for joining this discussion. We're working on a performance needs analysis for a request we received from Carlos Rivera for training customer service representatives. The products and innovation team is releasing a new AI-powered phone, and he wants to ensure customer service representatives are ready.
I'm happy to help where I can, Nepal. Just want to let you know I have a hard stop in 30 minutes.
Okay, I'll dive right in. Theodore sent me the performance expectations for customer service reps, and I'm trying to connect the dots between how we measure customer service and performance expectations for customer service reps.
I recommended we include you in the discussion, Emma, because your team owns the metrics for customer service.
Got it. So, how can I help?
Do you know who monitors our customer service metrics?
Actually, that would be me.
Perfect.
Do you want me to share my screen? I can show you our customer service metrics dashboard. We keep track of 3 metrics that measure customer service: first call resolution, customer call time, and customer care and tone.
Is there a target score for these metrics?
Yes, the target score for customer service metrics is 90% favorability.
Is it safe to say the performance expectations for customer service reps impact the metrics for customer service?
Yes, there is a connection between the two. Customer service reps' performance impacts our customer service measures.
Got it. Can we get access to those metrics, Emma?
I think so, but I'm curious. Didn't we just build some dashboards for you guys that show your LMS data and survey results? What are you trying to measure? Why do you need access to the customer service dashboard?
The dashboards you guys built are very helpful. The LMS dashboard shows us how many people completed training, hours of training completed, consumption and utilization. And the dashboard for survey results shows us the sentiment and opinion employees have about their experience with our training programs and learning solutions. We want to measure training and learning's contribution to customer service representatives' performance, and the LMS dashboard and survey results don't show us that. We want to use actual metrics for customer service because they give us the strongest signal for impact.
Got it. That makes sense. I have some ideas about how to get you access to the customer service dashboard. I'll follow up with you in a couple days.
All right. I hope that you are getting to see what the life of an L&D detective looks like. Because what Nepal is doing is collecting all the facts, the evidence, the clues, and now he's focusing on the data. And that's why he wanted to have that conversation with Emma. I want to hear from you. Use the chat to let us know what your observations were about that conversation between Theodore, Nepal, and Emma. Use the chat to share your observations about the conversation between Theodore, Emma, and Nepal. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you saw. We want to know what you heard. So again, use the chat to let us know what your observations are about that conversation. Caroline, what did you think about that conversation between Theodore, Emma, and Nepal? What are your observations, Caroline?
I thought it was absolutely telling. So the note I wrote here is that you need to be very clear about what drives the measurements, and I added focus on the data.
Yeah. What are some of our attendees saying, Caroline?
Okay, so we have Emmanuel saying that the links are exciting, and I agree 100%. He adds that the dots connect nicely. And then Joseph says specific outcomes discussed. Jack says from the email and the metrics, they have the baseline. Diana adds very engaging and specific, absolutely. And then Adora is adding that I really liked the consultative approach taken to determine what data was important to collect. And
Yes.
Seko adds the Emma survey data is informative, and then conversation was about knowing all the metrics involved when it comes to the standards used in conducting training needs analysis.
Yes, those are all very good. So Caroline, are you seeing how challenging it can be as a detective to collect all the facts, the clues, the evidence and data? There are multiple people that we have to talk to. There are emails going back and forth, but we need to do all of this work in order to get ready to create a training program or a learning solution that has measurable impact on human and business performance. And so hopefully you guys are seeing what it looks like to be an L&D detective. Are you having fun yet, Caroline?
No, absolutely. And I actually have a question that you might have, you can answer now, answer later, is
Okay.
that when you've got tons of data sets, bits and pieces of data here and there, how do you distill that to the essentials?
And I'm going to show you what that looked like. So that's a great question.
Awesome.
All right.
We have
Oh.
a couple other comments. So Emma thought that the LMS dashboard is enough to check impact, and Napol explains that performance is better. And then a few additional remarks here. L&D professionals need to sharpen their performance consulting skills, very profound. And then Daisy adds a big part of our work is in educating our customers on why we need the information we ask for. Many customers don't often understand why we need lead time in developing learning interventions, and this is a great illustration why. Thank you, Daisy.
Very good. Those are all good points. Now we're going to keep on solving the measurement mystery. There's more measurement mysteries to solve. So here's what we know, because we've done a lot, right? So we know that Carlos submitted a training request. In response to that training request, Carlos received a performance needs analysis form. He tried to complete that form as well as he could. He didn't complete all the information. Nepal, the L&D consultant, received the performance needs analysis form, had a conversation with Carlos to try to fill in the gaps. Carlos couldn't answer all the questions, so he sent an email to Theodore. Theodore then answered some of those questions relative to what the performance outcomes are. And also, Theodore set up a meeting with Emma, who owns the performance metrics, because that is what we're going to use as the signal for the impact of training and learning. So again, you can see how complicated this can get, right? But we're going to keep it going. The customer service representative manager Her name is Carla. Carla scheduled a meeting with Nepal because she heard that Nepal is working on a training program for customer service representatives. Again, Carla is the supervisor or the manager for the customer call center representatives, and she wanted to know what Nepal is working on. So let's take a look at the conversation between Carla. Remember, Carla is the customer service manager, and Nepal, who is the L&D consultant.
Carlos told me about the training program you guys are working on to get our customer service reps ready for release of the new AI-powered phone. When will the training be ready?
We're still exploring what the best solution is and haven't made any decisions about timing yet. I can copy you when we send our recommendation to Carlos.
Okay, I'll be on the lookout for that. I'm curious about whether or not we can isolate the impact of training. Our reps take a lot of training and we don't always know the difference training makes. Is there a way to isolate the impact?
We could potentially do a test and control group analysis. Are you familiar with test and control groups?
Not really.
So a test and control group analysis would be where you have two groups of customer service representatives. With all else being equal between the two groups, the only difference is the test group gets training while the control group does not.
Why would only one group get training?
We would compare differences between the two groups. We would want to see if there are any differences in performance between the group that gets training, the test group, and the group that does not, the control group.
I don't think that'll work for this project. Release of the new phone is a global launch, which means all our customer service reps need to be trained and ready at the same time when customers call for help with using the new phone.
We get the strongest, most credible and reliable signal for the unique contribution of training and learning with test and control groups, but with the need you have for ensuring all your customer service reps are trained at the same time and ready for the new phone when it launches. I can see how test and control groups is not an option.
Is there anything else we can do to isolate the impact of training?
Let me think about that and get back to you.
Right, so there are many times where we may want to isolate the impact of training, or what I like to call measuring training and learning's unique contribution. We're going to get the strongest, most credible, most reliable signal for the isolated impact of training when we use test and control groups. And Nepal just did a great job at describing to Carla what a test and control group analysis is. That's where we have one group of people who get training, another group of people who don't get training, and then we compare the differences between the two. And then that gives us the opportunity to draw some conclusions about the unique contribution of training and learning as we observe in the differences between those two groups. But again, as Carla indicated, that's not going to work because everybody needs to get the training at the same time. So using a test and a control group is not an option at this particular time. Nepal is continuing to get all the information he needs to complete that performance needs analysis form. We're going to fast forward a couple of weeks to where Nepal has collected all the information he needs for that performance needs analysis form. And we have to do the performance needs analysis form if we want to measure the impact of training and learning on performance. So let's take a look at the completed form that Nepal has with all the information. I'm excited for you to see this because what Nepal has now is all the information he needs to inform decisions for training programs or learning solutions that can measurably contribute to human performance. So again, the form is complete. I'm excited for you to see it. Pull out your mobile device and pull up your camera and scan the QR code, or you can go to the website kevinmyates.com/PNA2. Again, take a look at the finished performance needs analysis form, scan the QR code on the screen with your mobile device, or go to the website, kevinmyates.com/PNA2, and you'll see the finished performance needs analysis form that Nepal completed. I'm so excited for you to see that. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to take a look at that form. And Caroline, just want to do a quick check-in with you. Are you able to pull up that completed form?
Yes, and I've even shared the link in chat as well. So if you're having challenges accessing it, just go to chat. You'll find the link in there, and you'll be able to see the form. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, so we want to give people, a couple of minutes because there's a lot of information there. So again, Caroline has been kind enough to put the link to the website where you can see the completed form, or you can use the QR code if that's working for you. I'm so excited for you to see the completed form because now Nepal was able to collect and get all the information he needed. All right, and that's going to inform decisions for the training program or the learning solution that has the most potential and power to contribute to workplace performance. But Caroline, we're going to just take maybe another minute here.
Sure.
Caroline, while people are kind of going through that form, what are some of your observations?
So it's more comprehensive.
Yes.
Yeah, there's much more detailed information. So you can extract the metrics from here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And what I really like about that completed form, Caroline, is that it gives us a roadmap, right?
Yes.
It gives us a roadmap because now we have all the information about performance that will help us and empower us to build a performance-based training or a performance-based learning solution. We have all that information there because Nepal was able to get the answers to those 9 questions. It took him some time. We all saw that. He had to have a few conversations. He had to go through emails and he had to have different meetings. But the goal was to get all the information he needed so that he could create a training and learning solution that has potential and power to measurably impact workplace performance. So, Caroline, I'm going to ask our audience, and maybe this time around, because I want to make sure that we're good with time, Caroline, let's maybe read 3 or 4 responses, but use the chat. Use the chat to let us know what your observations are about the completed performance needs analysis form. Use the chat to let us know what your observations are about the completed performance needs analysis form. All right. Anything coming through, Caroline?
Yes, we have, so Daniel says it's getting smart. Jack says the form is really comprehensive. The business goal is clear. It's about maintaining, not improving. And Vera says that it also identifies the relevant parties to the training.
Yes.
And Adaura adds the business goal is smarter. Last one from Emmanuel, it's clear, comprehensive, and measurable.
Yeah. Did anything else come through?
No, that's it for now.
That's great. That's great. And yes, all of those answers are correct. All of those answers are true. What we have is a very comprehensive document that will guide our directions for what we create. Now, I have some exciting news for you. Remember that Carlos is the one who submitted the training request. Everybody remember that? Yes, Carlos submitted the training request. And now Nepal has all the information he needs in order to respond to Carlos's training request. So let's take a look at the email that Nepal sent to Carlos with his recommendation based on what he discovered from the performance needs analysis. So this is an email from Nepal to Carlos with his recommendation based on what he learned and based on what he discovered from the performance needs analysis. So again, use your phone, pull up your camera, and scan the QR code here. It'll take you to the email that Carlos, or rather that Nepal sent to Carlos with his recommendation. So use your QR code to do that, or go to the website, kevinmyates.com/V2 email to. And when you do that, you're going to see the email again that Nepal sent to Carlos based on what he discovered from the performance needs analysis. I think you're going to love this email because it's comprehensive, it's very specific, and there's some other pieces of good information there as well in that email from Nepal to Carlos in response to his training request. So just want to do a quick check-in again there, Caroline. Were you able to pull up that email?
Yes, I was.
Very good.
And just also sharing the link in chat so that you can access it as well. There
Yep.
you go.
So we'll take a few minutes, if you will, and just look through that email. Give you maybe a minute or two to go through and take a look at that email. Hopefully you're seeing some good information there. Hopefully you're seeing where we've identified exactly what Nepal is recommending. And there's some other good information there as well. All of this is going to be able to help us with measuring the impact of training and learning. All of this information is going to help us with being able to measure the impact of training and learning. So Caroline, what are some of your observations about that email?
I love the clarity. It's really good. And it's very, very focused as well.
Yes. Now let's ask the audience, Caroline. Let's ask the audience. Use the chat. Use the chat to let us know what some of your observations are about that email. What are you observing about the email, the recommendation that Nepal sent to Carlos? What are your observations about the recommendations that Nepal is making to Carlos in that email? How is it helpful? How is it helpful? What does it do? What does it give us? All right, use the chat to let us know. Anything coming through in the chat yet, Caroline?
Not yet, still waiting. Okay, so we've got our first one from Daniel. Performance needs are clear and most important, measurable.
Yes, yes. Performance needs are clear, and we've created a way in which the performance outcomes will be measurable. So I'm going to keep going because I want to make sure that we stay on time here. So with the information that we have from the performance needs analysis, we now have the information we need to create a training program that has the potential and power to measurably impact people's performance. We have a design document that identifies what we can use in terms of what we discovered to create a training program that has measurable impact. So what you're going to take a look at now is what I call an impact-based design document. It's an impact-based design document. So again, use your phone, use the QR code so that you can take a look at that design document, or you can go to the website, kevinmyates.com/V2 impact design. So here's why you want to take a look at that document. Nepal was able to get all the information he needed to send that email to Carlos, right? And he's making a recommendation for the best possible training program or learning solution that can measurably impact workplace performance. So now that we know what the plan is, because he sent that plan in the email, we now need to take what we learned and discovered and use it to inform decisions for instructional design. The instructional design methodology that we're using here is one that has the highest potential and power to impact performance because we've aligned our thinking to business needs for performance. So we talk a lot about alignment. Well, guys, what you're looking at right now in this impact-based performance document, what you're looking at is what alignment looks like. And most important, what you're looking at is an instructional design plan that helps us create a training program where we can measure results. That's the important piece. So I hope that as you're taking a look at that design document, you're seeing where those 9 questions are repeated, but this time we are responding to those 9 questions from an instructional design perspective. So if we want to measure impact, we have to create a training program or a learning solution that has potential and power for measurable impact. And what you're taking a look at is a design document that helps us do that. So we're going to fast forward to where the phone was launched. The training programs have been created. The learning solutions that were recommended are now out and being used by people. So now is the fun part. Here's the fun part, Carolyn. We're going to take a look at the actual results. So are you guys ready? This is the data. This is the data. Everybody loves the data, right? So here is what we're going to take a look at to see how training and learning measurably contributed to maintaining the customer service experience metrics at 90%, because that was the goal. If you remember, the goal is to create a training or learning program that contributes to maintaining customer service experience metrics at 90% favorability. Okay, so what we see here is that before the launch of the new phone, 1 week before the launch of the new phone, we see where first call resolution was at 89%, customer call time was 91%, and customer care and tone was at 88%. So even before the launch, some of these were not quite hitting the goal. Let's take a look at what happened after the launch of the phone and after the training took place. So we see where there was a slight dip, and that's to be expected because when you launch something new, it's going to take a little bit of time for people to catch up. It's going to take time for the customer service representatives to apply what they've learned as part of that training program. But also remember that training and learning is part of the solution, is not the only solution. Training and learning is contributing to the business goal of maintaining customer service metrics at 90% favorability. So let's take a look at the customer service metrics 2 weeks after the training. Wow. What we see here now is that we're trending in the right direction. We're trending toward 90%. And the one area where we have not quite reached 90% yet is first call resolution. But for customer call time and for customer care and tone, we are at the goal. So as the L&D detective, here is how I would summarize this. As the L&D detective, if I were talking to a business executive or a business leader, or if I were talking to Carlos, the way in which I would describe this data is to say training and learning is contributing to a favorable trend of 90% favorability for customer service experience metrics. That is how I would state the results. Notice that I did not say that training and learning did it on its own, because training and learning cannot do it on its own. But in combination with other contributors, training and learning is making a favorable contribution toward the trend of reaching the customer service experience metric goal of 90% favorability for first call resolution, customer call time, and customer care and tone. So Caroline, that is how I would measure the impact of training and learning, and that is how I would state the results. So I know we're going to open it up for a little bit of Q&A, and I'm excited to do that because I know you guys got some questions. But before we go into the QA, I'm going to leave you with this. Remember, I define impact as training and learning's contribution to workplace performance. And so when I am looking for facts, clues, evidence, and data as the L&D detective, I am looking for the facts, the clues, the evidence, and the data that shows how training and learning is measurably contributing to workplace performance. Before we go into the Q&A, I want to share with you that everything that we have seen today, you can find in the L&D Detective Kit. It's free. It's on my website, which you've been to. So you can go to my website and you can download a free copy of the L&D Detective Kit, and that's going to show you everything that we've been talking about today. So I invite you to go download a free copy. So Caroline, I know that we're going to go into some Q&A. This is one of the most exciting parts of what we do, right? So everybody, thank you so much for your time. I'm ready for your questions. I hope I can give you some good answers. Caroline, are you ready? Because I am.
I am too. Thank you, Kevin. That was a wonderful journey. The true detective that was practical, great learning. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Data-driven, but so a few comments first. We'll come to the questions. Line managers and other stakeholders need to be sensitized on the need for performance analysis before any training is approved. Lots of thank you messages here. Beautiful way to get a company to invest in training, and a few earlier answers there. There was a question, just wanting to get to it. So Enoch was asking earlier on, so that's the first question we have today. In this case, how do you isolate impact for training without using test and control groups? So you might want to add other ways of isolating impact for training, without using test and control, and then also appreciating that, training and learning is only part of the solution, but still, how do you isolate the impact? Well, what are some of the other ways? Let's see if there are more questions that have come through. I think just appreciate.
Answer that one right there. How's that? So the question is, are there other ways to isolate the impact of training and learning?
Yes.
There are other ways to isolate the impact of training and learning. And one of the things that you can do, is what's called a performance trend analysis. That will give you an idea of what it looks like over time, beyond, for example, like what we just saw. Maybe you want to take a look at what the metrics look like 30 days later, 60 days later, 90 days later. And that's where you can do a performance trend analysis. I do want to kind of challenge our thinking around isolating the impact of training and learning. So for me, my idea is that it takes a village, right? I'm sure we all have heard that it takes a village. And so when we say it takes a village, that means that training and learning and the L&D team by itself cannot measurably impact workplace performance. And that's just the truth, right? So I want to say that again. Training and learning by itself cannot measurably impact workplace performance. So when we talk about isolating the impact of training, sometimes I have to question, why do we want to do that? Because does that mean that this team needs to isolate their impact? That team needs to isolate their impact. Those teams need to isolate their impact. Well, team, the idea is that it takes a village. We all have to come together, the different groups, the different teams that are in the business, we all have to come together to contribute to workplace performance. So there are times where trying to isolate the impact of training and learning may be appropriate, and there may be some times where it's less appropriate. So hopefully that's a good idea. Hopefully that's, answers that question, Caroline. Happy to take more questions.
Okay, so I don't think there are any others yet. Let me just check this. There's one more that's just come in. Yes, so we have Adaura asking, how long ideally should the post-training and learning impact be measured? So after the training, after how long, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Adaura, after the training, after how long should we then do the measurement? Thank you.
Great question. So the question is, after the training has taken place, when should we make our attempts at measuring impact? And the answer is, it depends, right? Because there are some types of training programs where you can measure the results immediately. Like the example that we saw today, we were able to measure the results 2 weeks after and then 3 weeks after. So that was immediate. And that's because of the kinds of metrics that we were looking at. Now, there are some other metrics that might take a little longer for us to see the impact. So for those metrics, I like to think of it as the 30, 60, 90-day rule. So you might want to measure results 30 days later, you might want to measure results 60 days later, and then measure results 90 days later. But it's really going to depend upon the type of skill and capability and what we expect for how long it'll take for people to actually apply what they've learned. And we've already made an agreement with our business partner in that email, for example, that Nepal sent to Carlos to let him know when we were going to start to measure results. So that needs to be stated and agreed upon up front. Does that answer the question, Caroline, or did it make sense?
Yes,
Great, thank you.
It absolutely does. And Adora has confirmed as well. Thank you. So I can see Abner's hand is up. Abner, why don't you take the floor? Thank you.
Okay, I was actually even typing. Let's see what so my issue is that we all know that this takes time in Africa, because learning and training, most of our business leaders don't sometimes understand, particularly for the local companies. They come last minute to ask for something, and they try to prescribe similar to what Carlos did. I need half day, I need 1 day, and therefore it's a matter of how do we, if you don't sort of comply, not that you comply to the speed, they may just move on to somebody else who is willing to do whatever they want. Yes. So what strategies can we put in place? Because, we recognize that by the time they come to you, because they don't plan ahead, the time they come to you is, already in the negative, and they are expecting L&D to do something magical to reverse it.
That's exactly correct. I love that you asked that question. And that is a challenge, not only in motherland Africa, that is a challenge here in the US. It's a challenge in Europe. It's a challenge in Asia. It's a challenge all over the world, right? Even in the work that I have done, the senior leaders and executives would come to me at the last minute and they would say, hey, Kevin, we need a training. And they would tell me what kind of training they want. So they already know in their mind what they want. And that's where we become what I call order takers. But we don't want to be order takers. We want to be impact makers, right? So we don't want to do order taking. We want to do impact making. So the question is, how do you negotiate or navigate that conversation when someone comes to you at the last minute, or if someone comes to you and they already know what they want and they're just going to tell you what to do? How do you have that conversation? And here's my recommendation. And my recommendation is very simple. Tell the truth. 3 words or 4. Tell the truth. Oh, actually, that's 3. Tell the truth, right? That's 3 words. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. And the truth is, we can have a conversation with those people who come to us with their order, with their training order. We can have a conversation to say, and that might sound something like this. Thank you for coming to me with your training requests. I totally understand that you have an urgent need. I am totally sensitive to the quick needs of the business, and I empathize with you. I sympathize. What I would like to do is have a deep conversation so that we can better understand what your performance needs are. And if we have that conversation, I will be better positioned to make a recommendation to you for the training or learning solution that has the most potential and power to meet the needs that you have expressed today. If you don't have time to have that conversation, I understand. But just know that in the absence of having that deep conversation, we may not be able to create the type of training and learning solution that is needed to meet the performance needs of the business. So I just want to be open and honest with you to share what we lose if we don't have the conversation where you and I together can discover what the performance needs are. And that then will allow us to connect those performance needs to the type of training and learning solution that we can recommend. If you don't have time for that conversation, I understand. I just want to make sure that you are aware of what we lose if we don't have that conversation. So it would sound something like that. And it has happened to me, as I said earlier, it has happened to me where people have come to me and said, hey, Kevin, we need a 3-hour training and we need to have it next week. And so there are times where I'm able to have that performance-based conversation, and there are times where I'm not. And that's just the truth. So my recommendation to you is to lead with the truth, tell the truth, and then let our business partners or stakeholders make the decision about whether or not they want to have that conversation. And again, our job is to let them know what we lose if we don't have that kind of conversation. That was a long answer, Caroline, but did it make sense?
No, absolutely, it did. And it gives us the idea that we are consultants. And so the approach that we must take is, first of all, to get the data and then to recommend what the best solution might look like. So I have a couple of questions. One of them is, let's see, yes. So what do you do after? Because I see that the process is very specific, and I think there's more chances of hitting than missing. But what happens if you've done the process and still the training seems to have been a miss? What then recovery steps might one take? And then my next question is related still to the process. Is there a way to fast track it? Like in this case where a client might want a program like really soon, and you might not be able to go through all the steps in detail. Are there any shortcuts that one might be able to use?
Okay, so there are two questions, and I'm going to go back to an image that I believe will help answer that question. What do you do if after you've launched the training, you see that you didn't get the results that you wanted? So let's take a look again at the performance ecosystem, right? So in the performance ecosystem, there are a lot of things that are swirling around. Within the performance ecosystem is training and learning as an experience and the L&D team as a function. So all of these are swirling around in the performance ecosystem. So again, the question is, what do you do if the training didn't work? Well, one of the things that you may need to do is to go back and take a look at the different things that have the potential and power to contribute to human performance. Maybe it's not a training issue. Maybe it's not a training issue. Maybe it's a manager and coaching support issue, or maybe it's a compensation issue. But the idea is that if you need to go back and take a look at why you didn't get the results, don't always assume it's training, because it might be something else. And similarly, when we take a look at all the teams who are contributing to results, maybe it's not the L&D team. Maybe it's the research and development team or the human resource team or the product development team. So again, the question is, what do you do if you don't get the results that you want? You have to go back and take a look at all that there is that is contributing to human performance and business performance and determine where you might need to make some adjustments. So that's the answer to that question. And Caroline, what was that second question?
Yes, can we fast track the process, the analysis one, especially to really identify the issues, the need, the matrix, and then to move into designing?
Can you fast track it? The answer to that question is yes, you can, but you're going to lose out on getting some information that you need in order to create a training and learning solution that has the potential and power to measurably impact workplace performance. So again, can you fast track it? And by fast tracking, maybe that means maybe you eliminate some of those 9 questions. Maybe you ask 5 instead of 9, or maybe you ask 6 instead of 9. No. Yes, you can do that. But if you do that, you're going to lose out on getting all the information that you need in order to inform decisions for a training or learning solution that has the most potential and power to measurably impact workplace performance. Does that answer the question, Caroline?
Yes, partially. And I think in that answer, we have the solution, because if in the first place, we answer all the questions, then we don't need to do the emails and all those other things, or maybe just needing to do one back and one. Maybe after the initial, we just have one clarifying meeting, because the quality of the first data was very, very high.
Good. Do we have more questions?
We have a number, I think, in chat. So let's see what we have there. So we have one. So a lot of appreciative comments again. There's a couple more. So we have one from Joseph. What's the best strategy of rolling out e-learning courses, especially on mandatory courses? How do you measure impact of mandatory courses? That's one. The second question from Enoch, in a country like Liberia, where customer service is very poor in most corporate entities and training is lacking, how do you convince these entities to seek an L&D detective training approach? Thank you.
All right, very good question.
It.
Yeah, what was that first question again? I want to make sure I got
it. The first one was about e-learning courses that are mandatory.
E-learning. Yeah, e-learning for mandatory. Yeah.
Yes.
So mandatory and compliance training. So what I'm about to say might be a bit controversial, but it is my experience. And the question is, do we really need to measure the impact of mandatory or compliance training? I just want you to think about that for a moment, right? So different training programs and learning solutions are created for different purposes, right? More often than not, when we have an e-learning program, we need to, or an e-learning program for compliance and mandatory training, more often than not, it's because there is some type of regulation requirement where we have to demonstrate maybe to some authority or agency that the people in our business have completed this compliance, so this mandatory training or this regulatory training. So quite often, it's not always about impact, and that's okay. That is okay. Don't believe that we have to measure the impact for everything, because we don't. Believing that we have to measure the impact for everything is a false narrative. Now, here's an example I will give. If people are out of compliance, if people are not following mandatory regulations, then we need a compliance training or a mandatory training that we will use to measure the extent to which people are in compliance or corrected. That is a time where we need to measure the impact of training and learning. So if we have a mandatory training or compliance training in response to what there may be negative behavior in the workplace or people not doing what they're supposed to do, that's where we need to measure the impact of training. And even then, even if it's only a small population, we don't need to measure impact in its entirety. It's just not worth the time, the resources, the efforts, and the energy. Again, in those instances where there is a problem in the workplace and the mandatory training or the compliance training is addressing a problem, that's where we need to measure the impact. But if it's an annual regulatory or compliance and mandatory training, we may not need to measure the impact of that. We may just need to ensure that we are in compliance as it relates to the number of people who've completed that training. You have to really gauge that case to case, but hopefully I've given you some examples of where it may be necessary to measure the impact of mandatory and compliance training and where it may not be necessary. But again, we don't have to measure the impact of training for everything. Does that make sense, Caroline?
Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. And some very interesting comments as well in chat. So we have Jack saying, agreed, no need to measure, as completing and not applicability is the main measure. Thank you. And then Ebenezer adds, here's a question actually, I think. In firms where L&D budgets are managed at the departmental level by HODs, heads of department, especially in mining companies, how can we, the L&D specialists, have an influence in streamlining and measuring training impacts? Thank you.
We can have an
actually, before you respond, so we're taking the last few questions. So if you have any question, now is the time to share it, because we are just about to bring this webinar to a close. Thank you. Over to you, Kevin.
And so I think that question was really around, and I'll paraphrase, how do we get a seat at the table? Right, Caroline? I think that if I were to summarize that question, the question is, how do we get a seat at the table? Would you say that that's a good way to summarize that question?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely, yes.
So the way that we get a seat at the table is by being patient and knowing that over time, if we engage in the process that I have described to you today, the L&D methodology, where we have discovery-based conversations with business partners and stakeholders that are focused on performance as an outcome, where we're focused on human performance and business performance, I believe that we're going to get a seat at the table because the people in the business will see that we are more focused on human performance and business performance and less focused on training, right? We know that we need training. We know that we need learning, but training programs and learning solutions are the tools of performance consultants. I want to say that again. Training programs and learning solutions are the tools of performance and consultants. And I believe that we are performance consultants first and L&D practitioners second. We are focused on L&D, but we are focused primarily on using our training solutions and our learning solutions as ways to empower people with performance and help them perform in a way that helps them achieve business goals. As the business sees us with this mindset, as the business sees that we're working differently with a performance-first mindset, that is what will then get us invited to sit at the table. And they will want us to sit at the table because they know that as performance consultants, we can contribute to the performance ecosystem with our training programs and our learning solutions. The business cares about performance. They need to know that we care about performance too. And that's why I say lead with performance and follow that up with training and learning as performance solutions for the work that we do. That's how I believe we'll get a seat at the table. Did that answer the question, Caroline, or did it make sense?
No, it absolutely does. And I couldn't agree more that the more you add value, the more you demonstrate that you own the business and that you're concerned about the same things they're concerned about, then yes, you get invited to more parties and eventually you become part of the household. Awesome. So there's a question that Enoch had asked that I seem to have missed. Enoch, would you like to ask your question on the mic or in chat? We'll take that as the last question. I know I'd seen it way earlier. I'm trying to find it now, and I just can't seem to find it for all the other chats we've been having. Great engagement from everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing and really lots of appreciative comments. Enoch, if you're still there, please take the mic and we'll be glad to have your question answered in the session.
Yeah, so basically my question was about in a country like Liberia, my country, where customer service is very poor, and most of these entities, these corporate entities, there's inadequate, training. So how do you convince these corporate entities in a country like Liberia to, do, or let's say, hire an L&D detective as it relates to L&D training? Because I'm sure this is very strange in Liberia. Yeah.
That's a great question. And I also want to share with you that poor customer service is not limited to Liberia. Trust me, there is poor customer service here in the US as well. And I suspect that there's poor customer service in South America and in Europe, but that's a great question. So the question is, how do we improve customer service performance? The essence of what we're talking about is how do we improve human performance? So I want to go back to what I said earlier. Training and development is not the only thing that's going to improve performance, including customer service performance. It's going to take more than one thing. So what we want to be thinking about is, how do we motivate or activate performance for people who are working in customer service? And it's just like any other profession. The way in which you activate performance is taking into consideration the things that I have here as an example. What is the workplace culture for customer service, right? Are customer service representatives getting manager coaching and support? Are customer service representatives getting paid or being compensated at a fair and equitable rate? Are customer service representatives engaged in their jobs? Do customer service representatives get rewards and recognition when they do a good job? So these are all the triggers. These are all the activators. These are all the influences that have potential and power to influence human performance. And also, as the example, has the potential power to influence customer service representative performance. Training and learning is one of the things, but there are other things as well. And that's where we become performance consultants to the business, because if we see the customer service performance is poor, we need to advise the business or consult with the business to say, in addition to training and learning, what else can we do to activate customer service performance? So Anok, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I hope that that answers your question, and I hope that that gets you some ideas.
Absolutely. And I think it also ties into what you shared earlier, that that unless there's ownership at the top, then it can't trickle down. But again, L&D going through the steps to actually become partners with the business. So thank you, Kevin, for that very generous sharing. Some of the inbox comments that I've received are talking about how engaging your approach was. And of course, for me as an L&D practitioner, it has really been eye-opening as well. So I do some of the things that you mentioned, but I'm finding really a lot of value in terms of the systematic steps, the 9 questions, and I'm sure we'll be using those to engage with our partners, whether they are our clients or even our in-house clients that we serve as L&D. So thank you as L&D practitioners. So really, really appreciative of this. This is just the beginning of a conversation with L&D Africa. We'll definitely continue engaging and sharing. Remember to download the toolkit that Kevin has on his website. You want to visit there, and of course, do apply this. I always say, and I shared this even when Daniel was doing the webinar a few months ago, that we tend to ignore measuring performance, but that's really where the heart of everything that we are doing is, and also appreciating that we are only part of the conversation. There's so many other factors that contribute to workplace performance, but let's take up our role and let's really make it strategic. Indeed, as our first session at the conference was, that we do deserve a seat at the table, but we need to earn our stripes. We need to earn the right to be there and add value to the organization. So once again, a warm thank you to you, Kevin, for sharing. And of course, we'll have other conversations as we continue. Do you have a parting shot?
Yes. Well, I want to say thank you so much for inviting me. Even though it's virtual, I am excited to start my day in motherland Africa. It feels good to be back, even though I'm only virtual. I hope to get back there on the ground. I want to encourage everyone to have a performance-first mindset. When you think about measuring the impact of training and learning, have a performance-first mindset. And if you use the techniques and strategies and tools that I shared with you today, you'll be successful, and you too can be an L&D detective.
Absolutely. And indeed we are. I mean, the structure and the process, we must adopt this and elevate our interventions. Thank you once again, Kevin. And yes, so that's our webinar, our second last webinar of the year. So we have our last webinar coming up on the 20th of December, just before Christmas. I know you won't have closed, and even if you are, you'll still be able to join. So we shall be joined by Gurish Bakshi, who's the Learning and Development Head of Bliss Healthcare right here in Kenya, and he'll be sharing about fostering learning in remote locations in Africa. We always assume that, it will always be, technically sound and savvy and so on, but how about the places where the internet isn't as strong as it might be in our cities? And still, I mean, learning can still continue. So that's what Gurish will be sharing with us, fostering learning in remote locations in Africa. And then we'll continue with this webinar series right until the end of March. So you want to stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll continue right up to October next year. 15th to the 17th of October, we'll be having our L&D Africa conference. The 5th, that will still take place in Nairobi, Kenya. Details, of course, will be shared in due course, but do mark your calendars and start planning to come. We don't want to have too many people joining virtually. Come to Nairobi, Kenya, the place where it will all be happening, and we'll have that conversation. Otherwise, I saw Margaret joining in. Margaret, are you still there?
I've been here since the beginning, and I've been enjoying my brother from another mother, Kevin. Kevin is my brother. And Kevin, thank you so very much. I mean, I knew you would do an awesome job. You delivered. and you will definitely come back. And I'm hoping you'll be able to join us next year in Kenya. Thank you very much. I just want to end on this note from my end. I want to quote Sir Kelvin. He was a British mathematician, but he said, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. So my brother, thank you very much. If we can't measure what we're doing, then how are we going to improve what employees are doing? Thank you so very much. Please don't forget to join us for the last one on the 20th. And I hope to see all of you, Nairobi, Kenya. We had fun in Nairobi, and we know it's going to get bigger and better next year. Thank you all very much for your patience, for your time, for your attention, and we will continue to learn from experts like Kevin. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Margaret. Always good to hear from you and to have you join us as well. I think Joseph has summed it perfectly, and even Yvonne Abner as well says fantastic. Yvonne says great presentation, thanks to the organizers, and Joseph as well says this was awesomeness. Yes, we are elevating our webinars. We can't stay normal or ordinary. We're always going higher and higher, and it's going to get even better. Everyone, we want your feedback as well, and your suggestions, including who else we should invite to come and be part of this conversation. Margaret.
Yes, there's Enoch in the chat box saying we should wow Kevin.
Wow.
Absolutely. Let's do that. So it's just a way to appreciate you. So what we do is we make a small circle and then a big one and then a very big one. And as we do so, we simply say, wow. So let's go. Wow.
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 Wow. The biggest of all.
Wow.
Wow.
That is
Kevin.
awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm giving a big wow for L&D Africa.
Thank you.
As well,
you.
yes.
And a big wow to Enoch, who reminded us to wow Kevin. Enoch.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Absolutely. So let's keep the conversation going. Everyone, this webinar wouldn't have been what it was today. The awesome attendance, the participation was out of these charts. So let's keep it going. Let's keep the conversations going as well. And let's also continue to network, connect with one another on LinkedIn, and just keep the conversations going on. So it's been a pleasure being your host, also this year's conference chair, and just looking forward to ongoing discussions and engagement, even as we continue thinking about elevating learning and development in Africa in our different spaces. Let's think about what we've done well, what we need to improve and do it better. I know for sure I'm going to use the frameworks that Kevin has shared just to polish up what I'm already doing with my clients, and just wishing everybody a wonderful afternoon. Kevin, a wonderful rest of the day and evening and night, wherever you are. So do take care. And let's reconnect again on the 20th of December to discuss about remote learning in Africa and what Gurish has to share with us. Thanks, everybody. Signing out. It's been a pleasure being your host and your moderator today. Bye now and take care.
It was really good, Margaret.
Thank you so much. It was because you were awesome, and I knew it was going to be awesome. I need to talk to you. I need to call you offline. We need to strategize for next year.
Do you have my my WhatsApp number?
I think I should. If I don't, please send it to me through LinkedIn, because I think normally we that's where